Good morning, Louisiana high school students. Thank you so much for being here this morning. We're coming to you live and we're starting the conversation. This morning's going to be a different kind of presentation. It's pretty unprecedented. You're going to hear from all people who have been there. Instead of hearing from your teachers and those who often tell you what to do, your parents, you're going to hear from people who have walked the walk about the issues we're starting the conversation about. Coping with anxiety, bullying, mental health crisis situations, just to name a few. My name is Angela Lorio, and I'm originally from New Orleans. And about a year after Katrina, I moved over to Baton Rouge. So I'm coming at you from the capital city this morning. And I'm married. I have a son, John Paul, with special needs. And I love being a peer support specialist. And you're going to learn today what a peer support specialist is. And those are the people who you're going to be hearing from this morning. I serve on a state council called the SICC Council about early learning. And I'm also, as I said, a peer support specialist trained by Office of Behavioral Health, who we want to thank this morning for the Office of Behavioral Health for funding this program. Also, I'm an advocate on the state and national level for healthcare and mental health type issues. Been to Washington, say what needs to be said, and so happy we're able to start a conversation this morning. I want you to buckle your seatbelts because you're going to be hearing from people raw, where the rubber meets the road, things in their life that have come up and how they've overcome them. So this is like a reality show. So just, pull up a chair, relax and listen. And if you're going through some issue that you hear about today, you're going to learn that it's okay not to be okay. And we're also going to give you some resources. And we're going to give you this later on, but our website is LAPAC, and we're the ones putting this on. It stands for Louisiana Peer Action Advocacy Coalition. And we say LAPAC for short because that's a mouthful. But our website is lapaac.org. So lapaac.org. And I'll be repeating that because that's where we have the resources up. So not only are you going to hear about, what people have been through, these issues, but you're going to be able to reach out if you need help. So right now, we are streaming live. I'm going to give you our Instagram handle. I've just learned Facebook is for old people, which I'm kind of an old person. So we're using Instagram Messenger. So right now you can get on Instagram Messenger. Our handle on there is Louisiana PAAC. So Louisiana all spelled out, Louisiana PAAC. And you can start sending your questions, your comments. We have somebody monitoring that. So in between our presenters, I'll be reading your questions or comments and we'll try to answer those as best we can. So I just want you to buckle your seatbelts and I hope something today touches or inspires you. And if you see a friend struggling, in one of these areas, I'd like you to, to be able to be empowered to know what to do and not feel helpless, not let yourself feel helpless or feel helpless if you see a friend struggling. So we're just so happy you're here today. And whether you're tuning in streaming or you're watching this, after the fact recorded, we're just so glad you're tuning in. And like I said, realizing it's okay not to be okay. We've had a pandemic. You've had to adjust to virtual learning. We had, the hurricane hit. If you're in New Orleans or, any of those areas that were hit, our heart goes out to you. I went through Katrina. I remember what it was like to lose everything, to, not know where the lady was that you would always see in the post office, or, your classmates. Your friends, your family. Our family was scattered everywhere. You're having to, maybe you're evacuated, living somewhere. We lived in Texas for 3 months. So whatever you're going through, maybe you're just starting back school and maybe y'all are in person. Maybe you're nervous about, about the pandemic, about wearing masks or, not wearing masks. What are other people doing? So we want to talk about everything today and like I said, give you some resources, but just allow you to hear from some people who have walked in your shoes, who may have gone through something you might be going through now. So I'm going to introduce right now somebody who needs no introduction, our governor. So we're going to play a clip for you of our governor. And we just thank him so much for standing with LePac in solidarity and for supporting this and for, encouraging people to reach out. So right now, let's hear from Governor John Bel Edwards.
College can be stressful, even in the best of times. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, multiple storms, ongoing hurricane season, life can get pretty rough. And yes, we know that you're resilient, but everyone needs help sometimes. It's okay not to be okay. September is National Recovery Month. We all have struggles, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help. The Louisiana Peer Action Advocacy Coalition, LePac, has created a virtual presentation where students who've had mental health or addictive challenges can reach out and get the help that they need. Through their lived experiences, they offer hope. For more information, visit lapaac.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much. And again, we echo his message that it's okay not to be okay. And we thank you, Governor, so much. He's always front and center. Y'all, he keeps it real. I've been involved in some things and watched him roll up his sleeves. And he stands with you. So just know you have the support that you need all the way from the top down in Louisiana. So we're gonna start the conversation. We're gonna start off with an amazing person. Her name is Tanja Miles. I'm privileged to call her friend. She is an awesome peer support specialist. As everyone today that presents is a peer support specialist. That means we have lived experience. We have been there, done that in some area with a mental health challenge or substance abuse, challenge. And we have taken that and we have gotten on this new career path. This is a new career where we've been trained by Office of Behavioral Health and things like communications and ethics. And we now use our greatest struggle and our greatest pain, whatever we've been through, and we have turned it around. And we're using that as our biggest asset to help others, because that's what it's all about. They say there's no greater love than laying your life down. Well, that's what we do. We lay ourselves bare. A lot of people would say, oh, I'm not telling people about that. I'm not airing my dirty laundry. I don't want people to know. But no, we do, because we know it's going to help somebody else. Your story is going to be somebody's stepping stones to life, to reach out, to get help if they need it. So Tanja Miles, she is pretty amazing. She has been published in books, magazines. She's been on documentaries. She has been featured on a talk show, national television series. She's a passionate advocate of humane and ethical treatment of individuals with mental illness, substance abuse, sexual trauma, domestic abuse, and those formerly are incarcerated. She's moved thousands of people to sobriety and a healthy, sustainable lifestyle with her resourcefulness, passion, peer support services. She's a veteran. She's a wife. She's going to tell you about herself, but just listen to her amazing story. So thank you, Tanja, for starting our conversation.
Hey, what's up? This is Tanja Miles. I'm a peer support specialist. I'm an Army veteran. I'm a wife. I'm an aunt. I'm a community activist who are passionate about helping people, particularly when it comes to mental health and substance abuse. I tell people I'm a lot of things. I think the thing I am the most is funny. So I love having a good time. I like talking to people. I like giving people the resources and the help that they need, because I myself have experienced so much trauma, so much drama, so much tragedy that I made a vow to God, you know what, if I get my life right and I get out of this mess, I'm going to help as many people as I can. So as a peer support specialist, that's basically what I do. I share my lived experience or my living experience from sexual abuse, from drug addiction, from having a mental health diagnosis, and so many other things that I suffered from over 30-something years ago. Yes, 30-something years ago. I guess you're going, that's a long time. Yes, it is, but I made it out. Some people didn't think I would live to be 18. So the fact that I have this many birthdays is legit. I'm just saying. I'm so grateful for LePac for putting on this much needed conversation when it comes to talk about anxiety and depression and coping skills. I had no coping skills, y'all, for real. I had none. And so that's why I turned to drugs and a whole lot of other destructive behavior to deal with the pain from the anxiety and the depression that I was feeling. When I was a little girl, I had these dreams and aspiration to sing on Broadway. I love talking to people. I love singing. I have the gift of gab, as you can probably already see. And I sung in this community choir. And that was a song that the director had me to sing. And the song went like this: I am just a child I know. Everything I am will grow. Things that hurt when I am small grows much bigger when I'm tall. I had no idea I'd be talking about my life. I'd be talking about my life story, from all the pain from being a childhood sex abuse a victim and growing up to be someone who became a monster because had all this anxiety and had all this rage and anger and didn't know what to do with it. When I was 7 years old, I was molested. By the time I was 10, I was sexually active on my own. I started doing marijuana at 16. The first time I tried to kill myself, I was 13. I ended up in a hospital getting my stomach pumped. All I was told was, go to church, get your life right. In the African American community, we don't talk about mental health issues. We don't talk about, hey, look, my daughter had, tried to kill herself. What kind of help did we get her? Because my parents didn't know. I had great parents. They did not know what to do with me. I also had a lot of behavior challenges. I got kicked out of elementary school. I know, right? Elementary school. How you get kicked out of elementary school? I did, because I used to fight so much. Again, I had all this anger. I didn't know what to do with it. So turning to drugs was a choice for me, not wanting to live anymore because I didn't like myself, because of who I became from that, sexual abuse encounter. So 13 was the first time I tried to, kill myself. I was in middle school. By the time I had got to high school, I was a hot mess, for real. And the drugs became a lifestyle for me. I was totally out of control. I tried to kill myself again when I entered college, and I ended up being in a mental hospital for about 15 days. Trauma ain't no joke. And I know that might not be good English, but that's the real deal. It is a beast. And it's something that we don't talk about. For many years, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know why there was so much anxiety, so much depression was there, until one day someone told me about trauma. They told me about childhood trauma and how if you have any kind of challenges when you're a child, it could be sexual abuse, it could be the loss of a loved one, it could be any kind of traumatic event. I mean, it doesn't matter. That's trauma. And that trauma can cause, when it goes untreated, depression, anxiety, a whole lot of different things. And the day I was properly diagnosed and they told me I had PTSD, I was like, oh my goodness, I am not crazy. I am not crazy, because so many years I thought I was, but it was untreated trauma. Trauma is real. And in the times that we're living in now, it ain't no joke. I mean, with COVID, I know a lot of you guys, you were, going to school and you were sitting in your classroom, you had your friends, you had your crew, you were, having a good time. That was your community. And when COVID came, that just disrupted everything. And so now you're left to, what do I do? I mean, how do I cope with this? And here's the thing about COVID. COVID did not discriminate. It didn't care if you were 2 years old or 20 or 75. We all found ourselves on quarantine, on lockdown, stress, anxiety, not knowing what to do, not really knowing what COVID was, losing loved ones and friends to, COVID. And, a lot of us didn't know how to cope. And my heart really went out to you guys. And I'm talking about high school and college students, because you were kind of forgotten about, for real, for real. Everybody was just like, oh my God, what about our jobs and things of that nature? And those are important things. But what about you guys? Your whole community was disrupted. Some of you guys who were going into your senior year, you didn't have a senior year. You didn't have that experience, oh my goodness, I get to go to prom. I get to put on my cap and gown. I get to do all this stuff. All of that was disrupted. Or what about you who were, going into your first year of, of college? Everybody was like, oh my God, the first year of college is the most, the most amazing experience ever. And you guys didn't get a chance to do that. You had to learn what it meant to, learn at home on a computer. And I don't know about you, but that's not how I learn. I need some people interacting with me. I need somebody I can touch and see. And so you guys didn't have that. And so, you were kind of forgotten. And so that's why I'm so excited that BPAC wanted to make sure that you guys knew that there was hope, that you've experienced trauma. You know what? It's okay. There's life after trauma. I always tell people, life is going to happen to all of us. It's how we cope with it. And like I said earlier, I didn't have any good coping skills. I didn't know what coping skills was for real, until I started doing this work and I started doing research. And I realized that we all need good coping skills because life happens to everyone. Like me, I don't mind a good fight. I'm just saying I fight for good causes now. But, when I feel some kind of way, having PTSD, that's my diagnosis, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. Most of the time you hear it because it's someone who's been in the military, which I have, but mine didn't come from that. It came from the untreated trauma. And some people fight, flight, or freeze. Those are the three things that comes with PTSD. Mine, you guessed it, was fighting. So what I did, I lashed out. I was angry all the time. That was because I didn't know what to do with those emotions and those feelings I were having. Some people freeze. They just kind of stay in one place. They stay on the couch. They stay in the house. They stay in the dorm room. They don't want to talk to anyone. They just kind of retreat. And that's okay. That's their coping skill. And then, some people, again, it's fight, or they just, freeze, or they just run from everything. Don't finish anything. They just run from any kind of interaction that is not cool, any kind of disagreement or things of that nature. And so people have different ways with dealing with PTSD. All of that comes from untreated trauma and not knowing to do with those feelings of being hurt, maybe of loss, of losing a loved one, or just something like that. But there is hope. There are so many things that you can do. I know a lot of times you guys hear about self-care. That's a big old buzzword, but you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. Look, I said it earlier, in the African-American community, we don't talk about mental health. That's taboo. You don't go to the church and talk to anybody about it. You don't go see a therapist. Black people, we don't go to therapy. Yeah, we need to. And y'all, look, therapy ain't scary. I'm just saying. And so, there are many ways to cope with a lot of the things that you're going through. If you're feeling anxious and that anxiety, I talk to a lot of college students and high school students who are having panic attacks. Panic attacks are real, but there are ways that they can be treated. So let's talk about some coping skills. Mine is music. I love music. I do. Y'all don't know who the OJs are, I know. But I love music. So music is one of my ways to cope. I just get in a good place, and either I'm at the gym or at my house, and I just, let the beats just go all over my house. Let them drop everywhere. That's a good way to do, but it need to be good music that's going to encourage you, not that that's going to make you set it off, but something that's going to encourage you, that's going to zen you out. That's a good way. Another thing is breathing techniques. I know a lot of times people go, oh Lord, breathing techniques. Well, breathing techniques are legit. They really, really help. They slow down your heart rate. They can slow down your blood pressure, because when you're anxious, your blood pressure rises, your heartbeat. And if you had a panic attack, you'll know what I'm talking about. Your stomach is feeling all kind of way. And so one of the ways to do that is with breathing techniques. They're really easy. I promise you. There's some information throughout this whole series. You're going to hear people talk about breathing techniques. And it's just basically sitting back. A lot of times what I'll do, I'll just sit still. I'll make sure that my feet are on the ground and I'm kind of just real loose. And then I'll just close my eyes and I'll just breathe in. And I'll count to 8. And then I'll breathe out. And I'll count to 8. And I'll do that maybe 3 or 4 times. And then before you know it, what it does is it'll just slow your heart rate down. It'll bring your blood pressure down. And then it'll help center you, because what you're doing is you're not so much focusing on the issue at hand, but you're focusing on your breathing. And so breathing techniques really, really help. A lot of times people talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is legit. And it's basically trying to get us to just stay centered and just stay present. Look, I love social media, so I'm not going to be the person going off on social media saying social media all that bad. No, but sometimes when it's overdone and you're overstimulating your brain, that's a lot, because you're in everybody's business but your own. Okay, I'm just talking about me now. But a lot of times mindfulness would do, it would just bring us to the present. It would just keep us centered in a good place where we can, just look at the spaces that we're around. We can, be in tune to what the colors are on the wall or whatever sounds that we hear. And so we just focus on the sounds. You could focus on smell, if it's chicken or something good, I'm just saying. Or you could just focus on just, being, and try not to think about what you're going to do tomorrow, what tests you got next week, how many papers you got to write, for tomorrow. Don't think about that. Don't think about the big game this weekend or this Friday, but just think about where you are now and just center yourself and just sit there and just kind of be. And look, sometimes that's hard to do because, we're used to our minds being all over the place. We call it a racy mind. But if you can sit and just be in the presence and just stay in your mind, in your head is a good space. And just think about something good. Just think about something that you're grateful for. I know there's a lot of jacked up stuff going on, but, just think about, hey, I woke up this morning. That's a good thing. Just think about that. Just think about the little things. Or I tell people, go to a happy place. I love doing that. I love taking people where, if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed, go to your happy place. Your happy place can be to a beach. And I'm talking about going to a happy place, in your head, going to a safe space. It could be on a beach. It could be on the mountains. It could be in California, surfing. It could be at a spa. It's up to you. Everybody got a different happy space. Go to that happy space. Just sit down and just remove yourself from all the things that are going on and just see yourself on the beach. See yourself sitting on the beach. You can hear the waves going. You can see the blue skies. You see the blue water. And before you know it, that's going to help calm you down. Y'all, these things really work, and then look, let me just say this. If you're doing all those things and you're going, it's still not working. I'm still having panic attacks. I'm still depressed. I can't take a bath. I don't want to get off the couch. I don't want to tell people what I'm going through. Then, go to your guidance counselor or go to the mental health center on your campus and talk to someone and say, hey, look, I'm just going through a lot right now. Or it could be a friend, or it could be your primary care doctor if you have one, and let them know, look, I've done all the mindfulness, I've done breathing techniques, I'm working out, I'm doing everything, and I still can't seem to shake it. And then, they might recommend, something else for you. And that's okay. Everybody's different. Here's the deal. Life happens. I would be lying if I say every day going to be a day where it's going to be sunshine and roses. It's not. Some days you're going to have the best days ever. The sun is going to shine. The birds are going to be singing. You're going to be having a good day. And some day it's not. Sometime you're going to, study for a test and you don't do well. Well, you know what? You'll do better next time. But the thing is to not to get into a rut where, depression now has taken over and, you don't want to be around anybody. You don't want to fix yourself up anymore. And you just always feel yourself, in a sad space. There's hope for that. There's help for that. And guys, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It happens to all of us. Hey, look, it happened to me. That was 30 something years ago. And I'm just grateful today that I get to push hope, that I get to tell people, yes, addiction will kill, steal, and destroy. Trauma is real, but there's nothing wrong with getting the help that you need. I have a mental health diagnosis. It does not define me. We need to put more emphasis on the importance of the brain. Look, as women and men, everybody, we love taking care of ourselves. We like making sure, our hair's on point, our clothes are on point. But what about our mental health? We really need to be more mindful of that. And we need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves mentally. So many times we'll go work out, we're thinking that's enough. But no, you should see yourself as a whole person, not just from the neck down, but from the head down. And you have to take care of this organ. This organ is just important as any other organ in our body. And when it's having some challenges, it's nothing to be ashamed of. You are not crazy. You are a real person going through real life issues, but there's hope and you can cope. So there's different ways we talked about that you can cope. Listen to music, go work out, do some mindfulness, do some breathing techniques, go talk to someone. Therapy ain't scary. It's really, really not. I'm telling you, when you go to a therapist and you have a whole hour for yourself, you don't have to talk about nobody else but you. That's a win-win situation. And that therapist will help you navigate through those feelings. Look, one of my favorite songs, I love many songs, but, I'm quoting the famous poet now, Drake. Yes, I'm in my feelings. It's okay to be in your feelings. Your feelings just cannot overwhelm you. And you have to manage those feelings for real, for real. I think about Rod Wave, one of my other favorite songs is Heart on Ice. You know, a lot of times we want to put our heart on ice because we've been hurt a lot, you know, and that's okay. You can do that for a season, but you can't put your heart on ice for, you know, the rest of your life. I mean, life does hurt, but you can heal. And so I'm just so excited that you guys are going to be a part of these series. You're going to hear so many amazing speakers share their lived experience and how when they were in college and they were in high school and they had some challenges, but they worked through them. And look, that's our greatest joy here at LePac, that you guys can hear from us, you can learn from us, and you can maybe apply some of the principles that we use to help us when we were in some of the most challenging times. I'm excited that you guys are watching. Look, you know, life is a beautiful thing, but, you know, things happen to all of us, and it's how we cope with them. But we want you to know that there's hope, that there's help, that you're not alone. Make sure you find someone that you trust and you can talk to and share with them what's going on. I always say, you know what? A lot of times on TV, we see stuff, I ain't gonna call no shows, but they're supposed to be friends and everybody's bickering and stuff like that. Find you some real friends who celebrate you, not just tolerate you, who will encourage you and will lift you up. Remember, we're not in competition. We should be completing each other. And so I'm just so glad that you guys are part of this. Go be great. Have a great year. You're gonna do well. Do not lose hope. Know how to cope. And I promise you, you can live your best life. I'm so glad you guys tuned in, and I appreciate sharing this time with you. Peace.
Thank you, Tanja, so much. So I told you we're keeping it real. So it just got real. And she's got an amazing story. She has spoken all over the country. Like I said, you know, in her bio, she's worked with one of the presidents, with faith-based initiatives. But as you see, you know, even though, yes, we're accomplished people, you know, we have our professions, our biggest gift as peer support specialists is to share, you know, to share what we've been through. So I want to put up a poll real quick. So just to make sure you're awake, you know, it's getting up on lunchtime. You may be hungry. I don't know. You may be eating while you're watching this, but we're going to go ahead and put up a poll about trauma. So when this comes up on your screen, just go ahead and answer real quick, and it's going to give us the results. This is: which traumatic event has been the hardest for you? Pandemic, personal tragedy, Hurricane Ida, or bullying? And just click your answer right in there. Cool thing about this, nobody else sees you watching, nobody else knows your answers. And you can see, you know, that you're not alone. And just to repeat, you know, you can send your questions, your comments. If you want something answered live, all you need to do is go to Instagram Messenger. We're Louisiana PAAC on Instagram. That's Louisiana, all spelled out, PAAC. And you just shoot your question or your comment. Also, I want to let you know, if you have a question specifically for one of our presenters, we're going to give you our email address. So I'm going to give you our email, and that way I can hook you up with that presenter and they can respond directly to you. So our email address is louisianapaac@gmail.com. And you're going to get all of this information again at the end. But that is louisianapaac@gmail.com. And you can just direct it to whichever presenter that you'd like to ask a question to, make a comment about, you know, if something touches you or something they say, you know, spark something that you want to know about. So thank you, Tanja, again, so much. It's where it gets real, you know, sharing our story. I myself, I also have a mental health diagnosis. And as she said, it does not define me. And that's a wonderful place to be in, when something doesn't define you. So don't let whatever's going on with you define you. That is not who you are. Like she said, you know, when you get a diagnosis, it means I'm not crazy. You know, it has a name. A lot of stuff can be treated, you know, through, like she said, all these things, you know, to be well. If you have something that you know, you need medication for. There's no shame in that. Just like when you have diabetes, somebody has diabetes, they need insulin. You know, that's a neck down issue. Okay. We take care of our bodies. We're healthy. So just neck up. You know, a lot of mental health challenges, it's, you know, chemical imbalances in your brain. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You know, you're not less than. You just need some health, some attention, something, you know, for your neck up, just like if you have diabetes and you need to take insulin. So, you know, it's empowering. And I'm hoping that this does give you hope if you are struggling. And to also, you know, hopefully you're seeing today, it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to do this. And you may be, as I said, you know, earlier, you may be somebody else's stepping stones and give them enough courage to come forward. You know, if you're watching, be like, oh, I don't have problems with that. You know, I don't need to worry about that. Well, you might be there and notice somebody else is struggling. And you can use some of the words you're hearing today and you can reach out a helping hand. So next up, very interesting, very interesting. So D1 is a rapper. He is from New Orleans, just like me. I will say we are both from New Orleans. I am not a rapper. He's amazing. He plays all over the country. He's going to give us a shout out today. He is so proud. He is the only rapper to be a governor appointee. He was appointed to the Louisiana Council on the Success of Black Men and Boys, a state executive branch advisory board. So again, I tell you, our governor's for real, and he leads, you know, so from the top down, we have support. So let's hear from D1 right now. Thank you, D, for sharing your time.
What's up, y'all? My name is D1. For those who don't know, I like to introduce myself. I'm a hip hop artist from New Orleans. I'm a proud graduate of LSU in Baton Rouge, and I'm actually a former middle school teacher turned hip hop artist. And now I've been able to travel all over the world and reach people through my gift, right, of being a rapper. I want to talk to y'all about pain, because pain is something that I know we all experience and we can all relate to. Don't ignore your pain, but also don't allow your pain to defeat you. Your pain is supposed to actually motivate you and propel you towards your purpose. Without pain, we wouldn't know what joy felt like. So anything that you've gone through, it's up to you to decide to use that, to deal with that pain, but to use it. Let it motivate you to be a better version of yourself. Because if it didn't kill you, then it was meant to motivate you. Once again, if you are watching this, that means that your pain has not killed you. Therefore, it was meant to motivate you. So I want y'all to know that I've been through a lot in my life. I mean, even Hurricane Ida just hit. My parents lost their house, y'all. My sister, she got flood water all in her house. My grandfather almost lost his life. You know, he was a few hours away from that, and I had to come down and get him, thankfully, in time. He's 91 years old. In my career as an artist, there have been a lot of people that say, D1, man, you're not gonna make it, man. We don't believe in you. D1, you cool, but you're not it. You know what I'm saying? And I've constantly been the underdog and had to prove people wrong. Even my new single that I have out right now, I used to be an intern for this guy, The Game from Los Angeles. I used to be an intern for him back when I was in college. And I went from an intern to now having him featured on one of my songs. So from an intern to a collaborator. There's a lot of full circle moments that I've seen in my life that have let me know that that pain that you experience on the front end of not being good enough, not fitting in, being told that you messed up too many times, you know, you've made too many mistakes. Whatever that pain is that you felt on the front end, losing loved ones, you know, messing up a big opportunity, that pain is all part of our story, yo. And I'm sitting here smiling because I know how y'all's story is gonna end. As long as you don't let that pain break you, that pain is gonna make you, and it's gonna push you closer to your purpose, all right? Like I always say, be real, be righteous, and be relevant, you heard me? 3 is up. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all school year, and just know I'm always here for y'all. My social media is at D1 Music, DEE, the number 1 music. And you can check my music out on all streaming platforms. Please check it out. At it's just D1, DEE dash the number 1. All right, peace. I love y'all.
April 10th, I wrote this rhyme down. That's my birthday. Crying on the interstate while I'm driving to the A. DMX just died, and man, it got me feeling low. People think I'm all good, but they don't even really know. Trying to call my girl up. Well, actually, that's my.
Oh, it's jamming. Oh, thank you, D. I just love him. I mean, he also used to be an educator too. And he's just awesome. Thank you so much, D, for sharing your time. Go check out his music. I'm still alive. Y'all, I'm still alive. I'm talking to you here today. The sun is shining. You know, my pain, what I went through, it didn't defeat me. All these people you're hearing from today, their pain did not defeat them. You know, I joke with my friends. I need to get a t-shirt that says, you know, hey, I'm diagnosed and medicated. What's your problem? I say that, you know, a joke with them. But yeah, I mean, it makes us stronger. You know, when stuff hit the fan with the pandemic, let me tell you, my friends and family, my fellow peer support specialists, those people who had tools under their belt, who have been through stuff before, they sailed through it because you just roll with it. This is something else. It's a pandemic. You know, we got to adjust. We have our tools. We know how to be well. And I always, whenever I'm speaking, I say, do whatever you need to do at any given moment to be well, whatever that is, as long as it doesn't bring harm to yourself or somebody else. Like Tanja said, go to your happy place, whatever it might be, go outside, go in the sun, you know, lay in the grass, whatever that might be, you know, to just do it. So next up, we're going to continue the conversation. Next up, we're going to talk about mental health crisis situations. Amazing guy. His name is William, but he's Biff. He's Biff Hitchens, and he's been working as a certified peer support specialist over 8 years. Since 2015, he worked for Metropolitan Human Service District. And I want to just educate y'all a second. Human Service District are all throughout our state. If you need help, like Tanja talked about, how do I get a therapist? You know, we have those resources on our website. The Louisiana Department of Health does a great job, you know, of putting things out there. We have their links. We have their information on our website. So, you know, if you don't want to be seen, go to the guidance counselor's office. I get that. Okay. I went to an all girls Catholic high school in New Orleans, and you had to be just so. Okay. You didn't want to be seen going through the pack, you know, past the computers to the guidance counselor's office. You know, I get that. So we have those resources. There's even text lines, you know. So, but the Human Service District are good. They have one, like I said, in all parts of the state. Doesn't matter if you have insurance, whatever, you reach out. Okay. So getting back to Biff, he works for Metropolitan Human Service District. He's a peer support specialist and a mental health advocate, as all of us are, because all of us are advocating, you know, for each other and for everybody to be well. He works with young adults, experienced their first episode of psychosis, and is a certified mental health first aid trainer. So he's an awesome guy. So thank you, Biff, for sharing your time, and let's continue the conversation.
Hi, my name is Biff Hitchens. I'm a peer support specialist here in Louisiana. I've been a peer specialist for about 8 years now. I've worked in both clinic settings and in home settings, and worked with young adults, teenagers, elderly, and all those dealing with mental health and addiction issues. Today, I'm going to talk about a little about my story first. I was diagnosed back in 2009 with a bipolar episode with psychotic features. Today I really am focused on talking about like the effects of bipolar when you're in school and crisis situations and things. But mainly, my onset happened while I was on campus. So I'm going to focus a lot on that in this first part, really just kind of sharing about what it was like with roommates and professors and just the on-campus staff and what could have kind of went better. My addiction, I started with drug addiction back when I was 18. My childhood was pretty normal. I didn't have any traumas or anything. My addiction started as kind of experimentation when I was at LSU. I got in with a crowd that was experimenting in heavy drugs and drinking, and it was very common to do that. But for me, I got into hard drugs really soon, and I got hooked right away. I remember at the time thinking it was great and like, oh, I'm so eye-opening and all these wonderful experiences. But in reality, it started this functional addiction, which is where I was able to still go to school and work and all those things. But I was really just always on a substance trying to get by. And a lot of that was due to low self-esteem. They call what they call self-medicating is I probably had symptoms of bipolar back then, but I was just unaware of it. I used to take things like Adderall and different amphetamines to wake up for class and concentrate. And then I would drink and use different substances to try and get sleep. So I probably had underlying conditions of bipolar before, but I just wasn't fully aware. And so I'm a musician. And so after I kind of left LSU and went to Middle Tennessee to get my degree in audio and production, and things were going great. I mean, though I wasn't a functional addict, to me, in my mind at the time, everything was going wonderful. I was crushing it in school. I had a label job set up in New York. I had a production partner I was working with. Things were going seemingly great. And going into my spring semester during the winter break, that's when I had my first episode. And it really was, I was at this kind of wild New Year's Eve party. It was, had a lot of drinking, drug use, things like that. And I had my experiences are very spiritually based. They always have been. And I had this large higher power moment at the time where I saw this bright light, everything stood still. And this voice said to me, you don't belong here. You're better than this. And I've gone back and forth over the years. Was it, a higher power, what it was? But after that, I started experiencing what I now know was a mental breakdown. I started having extreme euphoria. I was doing very reckless things, but to me, I was so up. I felt great. I felt plugged in and all these things. And my friends were like, are you okay? Like, you shouldn't still be up like this. Like, we were partying the other night. This is like 2 days later. And then I was having rapid mood swings where I would go from angry to depressed to euphoric. And then just, it was just all over the place. And to me, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't really have any foreknowledge about mental health. I had heard the term bipolar. I had heard depression. I remember a friend of mine that suffered with depression in school before, and I was like, oh, just shake it. Like, I didn't know anything about it. That's why it's really important that I'm so glad we're doing this with LAPAC and OBH to educate people and young students and young adults about mental health. And I'm going to go into more about kind of what to do when you think someone's in crisis. But basically, when I was on campus, I started, I felt like I was well enough to go back to school. I kind of like leveled out a little bit and then ended up going off to school. So I was away from my support system in Tennessee when I'm from New Orleans. And like all my friends were just like college people I had met in the 2 years I was there. So they weren't long-term friends. So I didn't really have anyone that was super close to me that could really talk into my situation and try and help me. And I got very aggressive with a roommate. Like, I knocked his door down and I was just like trying to get him to be saved and all these different things. And it got very hectic to where he called the police. And the thing is I was having these small warning signs before then, but the RA who lived with me didn't know anything about mental health. He's like, what are you doing, dude? This is that. And like, he didn't say, hey, this might be a mental health breakdown. Let me get him to the social worker or to the crisis team or to the on-campus staff. And the campus staff knew what to do once they got to me. But there was just a whole lot of stuff that could have been avoided had my roommate known, our roommates known, had the RA known. And so really, like, this initiative, I just don't believe there's enough of it. So I'm glad we're starting to do it. Just some quick facts about mental health. 1 in 4 individuals are coping with mental health challenges, which means it's very common. This is something that is not rare or random to just like a small demographic of people. Like, I feel like most of us deal with some form of mental health challenge in our own way. Like, everyone's had anxiety before a test. everyone's experienced sadness or something after like a breakup. And so those are just kind of mild versions of kind of, what people with mental health diagnoses deal with. And really talking about depression in youth, it says over 39,000 youth in Louisiana had at least one major depressive episode, and only 18,000 of those did not receive treatment. So that means a lot of kids are suffering in silence and without treatment, where really if you reached out and saw a doctor, you can get on medications and things can level out just really quickly sometimes, and that will be it. And like, then you can have a fully productive life. And over 27,000 youth in Louisiana cope with severe major depression, and only 9,000 receive treatment. So that's about half, or a little less than half, that actually receive treatment for their depression, which depression can lead to worsening symptoms and suicide, unfortunately. And that's the tough topic, and I'll briefly talk about it later, but that's just the reality with, where society is. A little more about my diagnoses. I'm talking about bipolar and schizophrenia. My diagnosis was schizoaffective disorder, or is schizoaffective disorder, which is bipolar and schizophrenia. Bipolar kind of comes with depression and mania. I've experienced with like these long periods of sadness and apathy, low energy, just, not wanting to do things. For me as a musician, I would not have any interest in music. I almost sold my equipment multiple times, things like that. And then the mania, which is kind of what I was experiencing when I had my first episode, more of than depression, is heightened energy. Sleeplessness is usually the first sign. And really for anybody thinking they may have mental health conditions, I always ask them, how's your sleep been? Because usually it starts with disrupted sleep. That's kind of like an early warning sign for most different conditions. And mania is reckless behavior. For me, it's excessive spending of money, driving, like taking random road trips and doing reckless things. And schizophrenia is more hallucinations, voices, which I did hear from time to time. I would have voices that would play both sides. They would be friendly, and I would think it was God, and then all of a sudden it would turn on me, and there's a lot of confusion and all these different things. And really for me, the best way I cope, besides medication, which is drastically reduced all of the symptoms I was dealing with, is just kind of putting the voices in their place. It's like a lot of times I would catch them in lies and things, and so I'm like, why am I even listening to you? Why am I letting you speak into my situation? And so the less I engage with them, the better my life is. I feel like I have a very normal life. I work, I have extra, like I do music on the side. I can go out to shows. I mean, pre-COVID, but things are hopefully getting back to normal. But just a very normal life on medication. And it's really just kind of, learning how to cope with those things. But really, like, I've had over 36 hospitalizations, multiple incarcerations over the years. It took me about 5 years before I could get fully well. And even then had a few slip ups. So I was on disability for a long period, but I was able to get off of it in recent years, about 4 years now. And so the big key to recovery is just getting back up, no matter how many times you fall. And I'm sounding like I'm a motivational speaker here, but I really feel that, for those that are having these challenges, it's not necessarily going to take as long as mine, but resilience and just putting one foot forward and getting back up. Doesn't matter how many times you fall, keep getting back up. And so a couple of facts about bipolar. Average onset for bipolar is mid-20s, but can occur in teens. Mine occurred when I was 24. It affects men and women equally, with about 2.8% of the population is diagnosed with bipolar, and nearly 83% of the cases are classified as severe. I would say there's even more undiagnosed bipolar. I just know from my job and just in life, talking to people who they say, oh, I'm just an angry person, or, oh, I just, I feel sad every now and again. So, I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of manage it and are just kind of in denial of their symptoms, or just in denial of the condition. And the big reason that you want people to say, hey, maybe I do have an issue, is because medicines can help treat it, and then you won't have to suffer with these issues, and you know, like it can just definitely make your quality of life better. And that's what it's all about, is having a fruitful life that, you know, you want, all the things you want to accomplish, and all those things can be made possible, and you don't have to continue suffering, you know, with these symptoms that can easily be treated by medication. Like mental health issues are just like diabetes, or just like any other medical condition. It's just a brain condition. And the stigma is the biggest thing that we all talk about in advocacy and mental health. And it's like, we just have to normalize mental health to where, hey, it's a condition like any other. I know it looks like it's the person's acting a certain way, but it really is just so important that we get awareness out there that, hey, it's treatable. And really, to me, like, though they say there's no cure, like, because I take medicine every day, like, I feel like I've got things under like really good control, and there's a way to live fruitful lives. And a lot of people hear the stories about schizophrenia that, like, it's almost, you know, they all assume a certain thing about schizophrenia, like you're always going to suffer. But, you know, I've recovered, and I've seen countless recover that I work with. So just a little more motivation there. Schizophrenia can occur at any age. The average onset tends to be late teens, early 20s, similar to bipolar. For women, it's a little later sometimes, late 20s, early 30s. But I've seen it in my own work start as early as teens for women. It's just kind of your young adulthood to you know, young teenage to young adulthood. It can kind of happen at any of those times. Now I'm going to talk about crisis situations. Like what I was having at school was definitely a crisis situation. So these are some different tips and things that I've been on both sides of crisis situations, where I was the one in crisis, and then I've also helped those that are in crisis. So I'm going to kind of give you a little perspective of both. As the person experiencing the crisis, a lot of times you're very confused. I would get very agitated because I was thinking people were out to get me, that like there was some evil plot against me, that, you know, the feds were out for me at one point. I was also very spiritual. I used to think I was this powerful, like archangel type thing. And I don't know, it was just to get very confusing. But I would either be very confused or very agitated. And so if you see your friend have like a drastic, or you are experiencing this, where you have a drastic change in behavior, it's like, it's not necessarily that person just acting out. It's like, you know, if your friend's having this, like, you can, you know, approach calmly, just kind of like, it's all about your kind of demeanor. It's just like, say, hey man, like, we're just concerned about you. It's like, have you ever experienced these things before? And just kind of come from a place of like concern, and definitely watch your tone. Don't say anything that's gonna, if they're agitated, don't say, hey man, what are you doing? Or what's the deal here? Like, because that can make them ramp up even more. And unfortunately, it's all about you being the bigger man or bigger woman, and being calm in that situation, even though it feels like, you know, they're being very aggressive, saying things that are offensive, all those things. If that's not their normal behavior, they could be having either their first episode or dealing with untreated bipolar. And so bipolar can look like anger. It can look like just extreme, like euphoria, where the person's all of a sudden doing very, like, I don't know, off the cuff behavior, like, oh, let's go on this road trip, let's max out this credit card, all those things. And I just know, like, when I was in college, I had friends that were like, yeah, let's do that, let's party, and oh, you're the life of the party, that's great. And like, little did they know I was like slowly just, you know, going into extreme psychosis. So it's just very common from what the social workers at school had said, which we didn't know as students. Like, there was didn't say anything about it at orientation, we didn't learn about it in a health class or anything. And these social workers at school knew about it. They were like, oh yeah, this happens all the time. But like, I wish we would have known this is something that commonly happens to college students. So just kind of be aware, you know, just like, if your friend's acting strange, like, it's usually a friend or a family member that's going to approach someone, because, you know, like, they're the ones that are closest to you. They're the ones that are going to listen to you the most. And I had one friend that really tried to help, because he was like, man, what's going on? But he didn't really even think, hey, mental health was the issue. He was just like, man, my friend's acting strange, and didn't know what to do. And, you know, people may resist treatment and things, but The big thing to do, and a lot of times people are quick to call 911 when someone's having this issue, but I can't advocate enough for getting the number for your local crisis team. And so I know there's going to be some resources posted at the end of these presentations. But the big thing is that each area has got a different one. So I'm in the New Orleans area, so Jefferson Parish has one, Orleans Parish has one, and so different parishes and counties are going to have their own mobile crisis teams, and they're composed of a peer specialist like myself, someone with lived experience, usually with psychosis or bipolar or some mental health issue, and then a social worker and a doctor. And so as opposed to police showing up, and I've had good encounters with police, I've had bad encounters with police, and it wasn't always their fault. I was usually very agitated, but I mean, it's just when you call 911 and someone's confused, thinking the feds are out to get them, and all of a sudden there's 5 police at their door. They're like, oh, well, the feds are here. And then it turns into this, huge altercation that if it's someone, like a social worker or someone that's in plain clothes that understands it's not going to escalate, because some cops escalated, and they were, threatening to tase and mace and all these things. And so it just can be, I know there's training for police and things, but crisis teams are the best way to, the first line I would call, and then the crisis team can then take it from there. They can call 911. But if you're with your friends and your friend is having whoever is having a crisis situation, and you feel like they are going to harm someone or harm you or harm themselves, then you do have to call 911, because that person you could be saving a life at that moment. So that's kind of all I've got for methods for crisis situations. Lastly, I'm going to talk about crisis plans. If you're someone that suffers with mental health or mental health challenges or any kind of conditions, I would recommend just keeping a list of these important numbers on your phone. Crisis plan doesn't have to be, there's a lot of other therapy things like rap groups and different things that if you are experiencing these symptoms and challenges that you can get involved in, that build kind of a toolbox and a kind of a plan of action when you start seeing early warning signs. But a crisis plan really is just important numbers for either family members, therapists, psychiatrists, healthcare providers, friends who would be helpful, anything. And I would just keep that on a little note. Everyone's got notes in their smartphones, or even old flip phones have notes. So just keep it in a note in your phone. And so when you're having experiences and you might not be able to talk on the phone, say, hey, these are some numbers to call them. They might be able to help better. And organizations such as NAMI can help with creating these crisis plans, and just reach out to different organizations and things in your area to find out about support groups and things. There's a lot of stuff out there, and online groups. Themighty.com is a great online kind of social media collective around mental health. They have a lot of articles and support from different people. And so final pieces of advice, I would say, use local crisis teams first. Personal safety is definitely important. Know when to call 911. And real quick on suicide, I'm sure this is going to be in the resources, but the suicide hotline is 1-800-273-8255. When in doubt, reach out is something I always say. If you think your friend is having those thoughts, they're isolating, they're just acting very reclusive, things like that, shoot them a text, knock on their door. If it's a dorm mate or roommate or something, just kind of be a bother until they say, hey, just check in on them, because you could be saving a life. So like I say, when in doubt, if you think something's kind of fishy or they're acting a little strange, and they're a close friend, or anyone, just reach out and know when to call 911. And if someone is suicidal, the suicide hotline, of course, you can give that to them, but call that local crisis team. I use it all the time here in my job, where I've had interactions with different people we serve, and something sounded fishy to me. They might sound to me like they could be possibly thinking of suicide. So I refer them to the crisis team. They check in on them. A lot of times it's not, but it's good just to be sure and safe that somebody is, not thinking of that, and they can get the help they need. So I thank y'all for listening. I think this is such a great initiative for, all students and young adults to learn about. And I just thank you for being a part of this, and have a great semester and a great rest of your year. And thanks for listening.
Thank you, Biff, so much. And just to correct my friend Biff, his name, I apologize for that, not William, but Robert. So thank you, Biff, so much. And y'all can see, just by listening, the bravery this takes. Not everybody knows, Biff doesn't go around with a t-shirt or telling everybody in his professional circles, his diagnoses, but this is the power of this profession. This is the power of something like this, where we can have a conversation, real, raw conversations. And just to, point out a few things he said, 1 in 4 deal with the mental health diagnoses. So there's some attendees on here that are dealing with the mental health diagnoses, if you just do the math. 39,000 in Louisiana, suffering, and only 18,000 got help. And just to remember, it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're less than. It takes courage. It takes bravery, to reach out. Because right now, less than half are getting help. So there's half of you out there that may be struggling and are not getting help. And you're getting really good tools today to help others. If you're listening and this is a lot of good information, but you may not be struggling in one of these areas, you could save a life. Okay. You heard a lot of good information. We do have resources that'll be up on the website in case you just joined. LAPAC.org, LAPAAC.org. We'll have that on a screen again at the end. And also to let you know, this is all going to be uploaded to YouTube. So on Friday, when the whole series is over, for high school, college, it's all going to be uploaded to YouTube. So if you hear it, you say, oh man, I wish my teacher or, fellow students or, parents or grandparents, whoever, go to our website and we'll have it uploaded. Because I'm sure each of you in your mind is thinking, wow, I really wish this person knew these things, but I don't want to be the one to tell them, or I don't want to be the one to talk to them. Or the hardest is when you have family. When you have a family member going through something, let me tell you, family and coworkers, they can be the hardest to talk to, because you don't want people to look at you differently. Nobody wants that. We have our happy Facebook or Instagram, whatever life, and we don't want people to see our warts and our, and know different things, but you know how to reach out now. You're learning tools today. But just to know that if you see somebody struggling, somebody's out there, hey, they haven't been drinking, what's going on with them? They're off the wall, don't make fun of them. Just reach out and help them get the help they need. Like I said, you could save a life. So also we're fielding your questions live, Instagram, Louisiana PAAC. And again, I want to thank Biff. We're going to do another poll real quick, and then I'm going to go to our Instagram question. So here comes another poll. Make sure you're awake. It's lunchtime, so hopefully you're getting something to eat. You're going to have lunch after this. If you're hungry like me, if I'm hungry, it's going to keep me awake. So we're going to do another poll real quick, and it'll come up on your screen, and you're just going to click on that. And this is the poll for mental health crisis. And, this just takes a read, and like I said, if you're going to realize you're not alone, and through this, having a tool, to reach out. And let's see if our poll is up. So just, again, having the ability to, if you don't feel comfortable going to your parents, or if you see a friend, to know what resources are out there. You don't have to straight up, call 911. Now, if there's an emergency, everybody knows, never hesitate to call 911. But again, that altercation doesn't have to escalate and go down in a bad way, if they just need help. So also let's go real quick to our Instagram live. Let's see, I have a question. Don't they put you in the hospital if you hear voices? Okay. The answer is no. Okay. There's a few instances I'm going to tell you about real quick, but no, you're not going to be put in the hospital for hearing voices. The only time a person has forced hospitalization, like they force you into going in the hospital, if you are a threat to yourself or to other people. So if you're a serious threat to yourself, any harm to yourself or hurt other people, that's the time that you would be forced into a hospitalization. Another time would be if I could say you're gravely disabled, if you're not eating, if you stop eating, if you're losing a lot of weight, if you're gravely ill for some reason. But a person, you can also voluntarily say, hey, I need to get off this train of life. I need help. Call your doctor, whoever you reach out to, like, I think I need to go somewhere. So you can certainly, voluntarily go, but no, if you hear voices, you're not going to be put in the hospital, to not be afraid. And this is the power of peers. Okay. These are people who have been there, everybody's story is different, and you're going to hear that today. So, but just to answer that question, and we'll continue to take your questions, go to Louisiana PAAC on Instagram Messenger. Thank you for that question. Now, next up, and again, this is somebody I'm really proud to call friend. I've actually worked alongside this man. This is U.S. Congressman Garrett Graves. Back in the flood of 2015 in Baton Rouge, him and his wife and his kids showed up, and we worked shoulder to shoulder with the medical supplies, getting things to people they needed in the flood. He is front and center, especially with any disasters in Louisiana, a hurricane, getting people help with recovery. We have an awesome U.S. Congressman and Congressman Garrett Graves. And we appreciate his support, his solidarity. So he's coming at us from his Washington, D.C. office. And it's really cool. Look at the background when he's talking. He's got some cool pictures on the wall. So, all right, Congressman Graves.
Congressman Garrett Graves, Louisiana has been through some incredible challenges over the past few years. And of course, the most recent was Hurricane Ida, where you had some of the strongest winds that have ever come ashore in the state of Louisiana, incredible storm surge, huge rainfall. And you can imagine the devastation that people feel when something like that happens. Your roof's blown off, all of your things have been saturated and underwater. And a lot of times people just feel helpless. But one of the greatest things about people in Louisiana is that when people are in need, we all come together. Complete strangers will come in and help to clean things up, clean things out, and rebuild. Sometimes in our personal lives, we'll have a similar situation. You may be challenged with the COVID pandemic. You may be challenged with just being overwhelmed from being in a new school or some of the subjects you're dealing with, or relationships with friends, or maybe even the loss of a loved one. And you know what? It's another opportunity to receive help from some great folks in our community. So those of you that are struggling with challenges like we all do in our lifetime, just know that there are resources, there are people out there that are willing to help. So I'd urge you, look around for those resources, look around for those people to talk to, because at home in Louisiana, we are such great people and there's never strangers. So reach out, get some help, because we're all going to need it at some point in life. I'll take care.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We just, again, that support and solidarity and breaking down the stigma. The stigma is real, but you can be a part of the solution. Having conversations like this, when somebody does have a diagnosis, or when something's going south, with somebody you're in class with or whatever, build them up, and encourage those around you. Like, you wouldn't make fun of somebody that has diabetes, oh, you have a heart condition, ha, 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 no. And so we're normalizing it, we're talking about it. And like Ton just said, neck up, just like you go to the gym, neck down, which I got to go to the gym. Okay. That's what makes it real. And there is no greater love than to lay down your life. And that's what these people are doing today. They're laying bare for your good, everybody watching, those who may be struggling, to say there's hope, it's okay. There's light at the end of the tunnel. If you do have something, it's going to be all right. You got a, normal, social life, everything, carry on, quality of life, whatever you want to achieve is ahead of you. So next up, we're going to continue the conversation with Katie Penton about self-care. Katie is a person in long-term recovery. She became a peer support specialist in March of 2019. The things that she values most: family, love, empathy for others. She currently works for Florida Parish's Human Service Authority at an outpatient clinic in St. Tammany Parish. So she's coming at us from the North Shore. She gets to use her lived experience with substance abuse and mental health challenges to help others who face similar challenges in life. She uses, as we've said, her past pain and struggles to help get others to a place of wellness. And it's changed her life forever. So thank you, Katie, for being here, and listen up.
Hi, my name's Katie, and today I want to talk to you guys about dealing with stress and anxiety and a little bit of self-care. But before we talk about that, I just want to tell some of my story. So to give some perspective about where I came from and how I got here today and where I'm at today. So I'm a person in long-term recovery from mental health challenges and substance use challenges. I would say I started experiencing mental health challenges from a very young age. My earliest memories of feeling just sad and depressed were when I was around 9 years old. But it was really in my teenage years when they seemed to become more significant and more prevalent and were happening on a more frequent, almost daily basis. And I think a lot of people can relate to these feelings in the teenage years. There's a lot of transition going on. You're not really a kid anymore and you're not an adult anymore. So it can be a very stressful and confusing time in life. And it really was for me. So I was experiencing a lot of just kind of life stress at the time. My mom and dad were going through a divorce. I was homeschooled all my life and had started public school for the first time. And then I had a friend that died in a very traumatic and tragic way. So this really just, all these things combined, turned my world upside down. It made me question everything about what I thought I knew about life at this point. And it just made me feel really unsafe and like everything was turned upside down. So this is really when my anxiety and my depression started, and I started developing these feelings of no longer wanting to live on this earth. I was in a lot of emotional pain and I just wanted to be done with it. So I felt really alone as well. Mental health wasn't something my family talked about or my friends or at school or anything like that. It was just kind of like you deal with your feelings and you set them aside and you move on. So when I was dealing with feelings that I had no clue how to handle, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't have any coping skills, and just really didn't know how to handle my emotions. So around this time was when I started experimenting with different substances. I started with drinking and smoking and things like that, and it moved on progressively to more harder and more powerful substances. So I didn't realize at the time, but what I thought was helping me, which was using substances and drugs, it was actually making things worse for me. I thought by numbing myself and taking the pain away that I was helping myself, but I didn't really know how else to cope with my feelings or my emotions, and didn't know what to do really. So throughout my years in high school, even though I was using substances pretty regularly, not daily at this point, my grades weren't affected. So because I was still making good grades and still had friends, I really didn't think I had a problem, you know. And another thing was addiction was not talked about. I've never heard about recovery or addiction at all. I mean, they had like the drug awareness stuff, that just say no to drugs and different things like that at my school, but I did not feel like those things were practical or relevant, and I didn't take them seriously at all. So to fast forward a little bit, I went to college and was still dealing with the same kind of mental health things. Things slowly were getting worse for me now. Like I was still making good grades in my first few years of college. So it's still, again, I was thinking, I'm okay, nothing's wrong. But I had another loss of a friend. And then the next semester, I ended up having to have a surgery. I had to have my tonsils removed because I kept getting really sick and got tonsillitis a bunch. So right after my surgery, I went through a bad breakup. So with all these things combined, my life quickly started spiraling out of control. And my using that was, you know, every other day or mainly on weekends kind of went right now to this point where I was using every day. You know, I started developing very regular thoughts of not wanting to live, self-hate and self-harm. So I was just hurting so badly inside, and the drugs really weren't helping me the way I wanted them to. They kind of were making things worse. But at this point, I didn't develop any coping skills or anything to deal with those emotions. So I felt stuck in this cycle of fear and using, and it just repeated itself for years and years. And I got to a point where I really thought I was going to die. And it was either going to be by my own hand, I was going to kill myself, or I was going to overdose. So I'm just stuck in this place of being terrified to stop using and terrified to continue using. So it was a very scary place to be. But I ended up finishing college and I got my bachelor's degree just by the skin of my teeth. Like, I really don't know how I did it. I was not in a good place. My grades had dropped drastically. I went from having very high, like 3.8 GPA to, I don't even remember what it was when I actually graduated, but it was like in 2.678 range or something like that. So this was when I really started to realize that I needed help. I went to treatment and I started having to face my feelings and emotions for the first time without a substance to numb them. And this was terrifying to me. I didn't know how I was going to make it through that time. I wanted to leave a lot, and I just kept getting through it day by day, and telling myself, just make it through today, just make it through today. And so here I am in treatment as a college graduate in my mid-20s, and I feel like a scared child again, and I don't know how to cope or deal. I would say the things I learned in treatment helped me a lot, and being in treatment took me out of a really negative environment. I had a very kind of toxic, unhealthy home life. So being in treatment gave me a safe place to kind of heal and learn some coping skills and things like that. It was really the things I started to learn after treatment that saved my life. And I would say those things continue to save my life today on a daily basis. They keep me sane. Growing up, I always thought things I felt inside or the thoughts that I had in my head were the absolute truth and the only reality that there was. I was never really taught to question my thoughts or my perception of reality. So I just figured if I thought something or if I felt something, that was truth and that was the end of it. So one important thing I learned was that my feelings are not facts. My feelings can lie to me sometimes. I started going to support groups locally, and I found people that were going through similar things to me. Either they were currently going through those things or they had been through those things before. So having people that I could relate to and could relate to me was very refreshing for me. And it helped me so much just being able to talk and speak my mind and have people understand what I was going through. So I started to learn how to challenge that negative self-talk from my inner self and how to redirect my negative thinking. And it was a slow process. It wasn't something that just happened overnight, but just really learning how to recognize when those negative thought patterns come in, and how to practice some self-care, and taking care of myself and my mental health was just so important for me. It still is very important for me this day. I learned about acceptance, accepting myself and others, learning to love myself, learning that I can only control myself and my reaction to things, and I cannot control anything outside of myself. And some of these things may seem common sense to other people, but for me, these were foreign ideas. Like I'd never heard these things and no one ever taught me these things. So I discovered a lot of techniques to help change those negative thought patterns. One technique I really like is called mindfulness. And some of you may have heard of this before, but it's basically being present in the moment, in the here and the now, and not stuck. For me, like I would get stuck in these painful past memories, or I would be terrified of an uncertain future and just would be crippled in those moments, so learning how to bring it back to the now and the present. And I can't change my past. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So why worry about those things? And it's easier said than done, but like learning to practice these things and creating new habits with these things really helped me a lot. I learned to not let my fear and anxiety take control, and to recognize when these thought patterns entered my head and to challenge their validity, really. So there's a mindfulness exercise I really like, and it's fairly easy to remember, and it's something you can do if you're in a public place and you just feel a lot of stress and anxiety and you need to kind of ground yourself and center yourself. It's called the 5 senses. So what you do, is just kind of try to take a deep breath and get yourself centered and name one thing you can see, one thing you can hear, one thing you can smell, one thing you can taste, and one thing you can touch. And sometimes if I have a really heightened sense of stress, I will just do this several times. And it really, that connection to what's in the present moment around me helps center me and ground me a lot. And there's a lot of other techniques I'm sure a lot of you have heard, like breathing techniques, that really helps like calm your central nervous system and like really paying attention to your breathing. I'll put my hand, on my stomach right below my chest just to kind of feel those breaths and really tune into them and recognize them. Some other things that have been very helpful for me are being in nature, something about the natural world around us, like in the woods or at the beach or, any kind of natural setting. Just they're really calming to me and help me a lot. And music has always been a big thing for me, and writing as well. I like to write. It really helps me get my thoughts out that I might not be able to say out loud or speak of. And art, I'm not really that great at art, but I enjoy it. It kind of settles my spirit, so to say. So some of these things may sound really simple or corny, but to me, the most important things that I have learned in my recovery are really kindness and compassion towards myself and others, being present in the here and now and not stuck in my past or fearful of my future, and really learning to reach out and ask for help and support. That if I wouldn't have done that, I don't know where I would be today. And I really hope that something I say here today could help someone, so maybe you wouldn't have to experience the same things that I did. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Appreciate you, all the work you do in St. Tammany Parish. And yeah, I mean, those self-care things are different for everybody. I'm not an artist either. I love coloring. Like, I literally, being from New Orleans, somebody gave me a New Orleans adult coloring book. And I love it. And yeah, it may sound corny, but whatever it is, to get out of your comfort zone, if you're not a gardener, whatever, but you just digging in the mud, planting a plant, watering the plants outside, just anything. And just tell you about myself too. She talked about some of the struggles she went through. As I said earlier, I went to Catholic all girls high school, perfect neighborhood, everything, so everybody had to be just so a certain persona. And so I hid, I cut class, my mom knew, but played sick. When you're depressed, when you're going through stuff, I know that some of you out there, it's easiest to just say, I'm sick, I don't feel good. And my senior year, I did that so much. I actually had to stay after school to make up the hours so I could graduate. So it's real and it's tough, in college. My first year away at college, I went away to college just because I was following a guy and he wanted to go to that college. I didn't care about that college. But I was in a place where myself, myself was last. I was last and I was out there. I didn't know, if you didn't know it's possible, you can actually have a 0.65 GPA. Okay. After my first year, I had a 0.65 GPA. Happy to say it was brought up all the way to a 4.0. But if you're in that place, it's okay. And the quicker you reach out, when you reach out, things are going to become bright, they really will. And also I like to say you have your biological family and you have your chosen family. So it's okay. And you don't always get what you need. And you're not always built up by your biological family and you love them, but you also have your chosen family. And as you get older, right now in high school, it's your friends, that you're in high school with, maybe some family friends. But it's okay to have that chosen family and to be around people who build you up and encourage you and make you feel good about yourself. And there's a lot of you on from Baton Rouge. So I'm going to give you a Baton Rouge support group, DBSA. It's Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. And they have a support group every Tuesday night, 7:00, La Madeleine at Old Hammond Highway by Corporate. And there's stuff like that all over the state. So that's just a lot of shout out. And my husband has a saying, she was talking about, worrying and stuff. He says, don't borrow trouble from tomorrow. And it's really true to be in that present moment. The mindfulness, Tanja talked about it. Katie just reminded us of it. But don't borrow trouble from tomorrow. I got to do that project. I have that paper due. What if I don't do it? And what my parents are going to say this. And if I do, don't. And what am I going to major in? Just don't, do your best, one day at a time. All those little sayings are real. And we're going to turn, in case you missed it, we are fielding questions live on Instagram Messenger. It's Louisiana PAAC on Instagram Messenger. We had a question come in. We're going to do that. And then we do have another poll. So the question here is, I don't want to go to treatment. What else can I do? All right. So there's a lot you can do if you don't want to go to treatment. Okay. And a lot of times you don't, I don't want to say you don't have the luxury, but life happens. And, if you can't, there's other ways. There's a lot of support out there. I just talked about that support group. There are 12-step programs. You may have heard of NA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Smart Recovery. There's a lot that have helped millions and millions of people. So proud to say, and my husband is actually also a peer support specialist. He has been 38 years in AA, so 38 years sober. You get a little chip if you're not familiar every year, and it's an amazing program. So there's a ton out there. We have the resources on our website. So lapac.org, lapaac.org. We have resources there. So we're going to put up a quick poll. Again, make sure you're awake there, and we'll see if our poll works this time. Poll on self-care. So how well do you take care of yourself? Great. Eat well, exercise, talk to people. I'm okay. Usually don't worry about it till you get stressed, or not well, I put myself last. So just take a second, click on that. And know you're not alone. There's somebody on here, I guarantee you, that is going to, answer the same answer as you are. All right, great. Thanks a lot. Next up, we have another wonderful, and there's the results to our poll. So 29% of you, great, eat well, exercise, 57%, okay. Not till you get stressed. And then 14% not well, you put yourself last. So, to think of those things. I struggle with putting myself last, being, the mom of a child with special needs. And, just everything going on. A lot of times, if you do become a parent, when you become a parent, you'll have to ramp that up. And just, a lot of times, like in high school, you can be a people pleaser, I call it. I was a people pleaser. I wanted to please my parents, so I didn't want to show what I was going through. I wanted to make the grades. I wanted to, belong to everything I needed to belong to and stay in step, that kind of thing. And I did put myself last, and I suffered for it, and the quicker you learn to take care of yourself and do that self-care, the better, the healthier that you will be. So next, again, I'm really honored to call her friend. This is our state senator, Regina Barrow. She's out of Baton Rouge, but if you're in politics, you have social studies, you're learning about all this in high school now. If you don't know about it, learn it, who your state representative is, you have your state, district, and of course our US representatives. She's out of Baton Rouge, Senator Regina Barrow. She's incredible. She has been on the front lines. If you live in Baton Rouge and you watch the news, you have seen her on the news. Anytime there's been times of division in our community, tragedies that have happened in Baton Rouge, she was literally, I'll never forget, she was, standing up by her pickup truck with a bullhorn, speaking peace to a crowd, so she's incredible. And we just thank her again, like everyone, for her solidarity and her support. So here is Senator Regina Barrow.
Hello, this is Senator Regina Ashford Barrow. I regret I am unable to attend in person, but I want you to know how proud I am of you. It has been difficult times with the pandemic, virtual learning, natural disasters, getting back to school. But you've done it. You bounced back, you've been resilient, and you've done a great job. However, I want you to know it's okay to acknowledge that you're not okay. So if you're struggling in one of the areas that you hear about today, please reach out to one of the LAPAC peer support workers. They are here to help and even perhaps share their own personal stories. It is my hope and desire that you hear something today that inspires you and encourages you to keep moving forward. God bless you, and know that the best is yet to come. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Senator Barrow. And, it's awesome, to know now that there are peer support specialists. If you have a question for any of our presenters specifically, email louisianapaac@gmail.com. We're going to have that up in a minute. Lastly, as we're continuing this conversation, the last person, last but not least, Part one today is Pascal Nguyen. She's incredible. She's going to talk about resiliency and change. She's currently a parent partner mentor at the Extra Mile. It's a family resource center. She works with the National Children's Trust Fund Alliance. She is a member of the Birth Parent National Network. She's a certified peer support specialist and started her journey off into advocacy work after she got reunited with her children. She has an incredible story. Today, she is the proud mom of 7 children, and she does an amazing job. And she actually looks like she's in college. She's amazing. And she's a wife to her extremely supportive husband. So listen up to Pascal.
Hi, my name is Pascal Nguyen. I am a Louisiana resident and I'm a volunteer worker with LAPAC. And I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my story of change and resilience. So I want to start back from when I was a child. I lived in another state and what seemed to be like we had a pretty good life until one day my mom and dad broke the news to us that they were getting a divorce. Immediately, I was very angry and resentful. And so then I was even more sad to find out that we had to move to another state. And so we moved to Louisiana when I was about 13 years old. And so I automatically had a lot of problems. I didn't want to do the work that the teachers were giving me in school. I was struggling with concentrating. I was just struggling all around and there was no one there to help me. And I didn't know that I was facing a challenge of having ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And I didn't find out about that until later on. And it was all due to the problems that I was causing at school and the suggestions that I be seen by a doctor. So my mom brought me to the doctor and got me diagnosed. I refused to take the medications and I still was struggling with school, skipping school, just not being a good kid to my parent, or in the community, and so all of that just led to even, more problems in my life. I ended up skipping school so much that my mom actually just withdrew me from school because she didn't know what else to do. She had tried everything she possibly could to help me, but I didn't want to help myself. And so I kind of like ran away to another city, thought I was gonna be a grown up and do all these wonderful things. And I knew what I was doing, but little did I know that, something even darker was headed my way. And so, yeah, I started hanging out with the wrong crowd and, partying, going to nightclubs, drinking and using substances. And it just didn't end on the weekends for me. It started off really slow at first, but gradually it was an everyday thing and something I felt like I needed to have to survive. But so luckily, it ended up getting me, in some trouble. And unfortunately, but fortunately, I was led to get some help at that point, and that I'll never forget that day because that was the one day in my life that for the first time, I really felt like someone understood that there was definitely a problem with me and that I needed some help and what help I did need. No one else could figure out what to do with me or how to help me, So yeah, I was suggested to go to, some recovery meetings. And I started doing that. And still to this day, I attend those meetings. I was also doing some volunteer work in my community at a family resource center. And from there, someone that works there suggested that maybe I take the peer support training in my state and, go out and help others. And so I went ahead and I did that. And I started getting involved, with peer services. And then I met Miss Angela Lorio and on a Zoom call one day, and she suggested that I maybe sign up in one of the work groups for the organization. And I was a little hesitant at first, but I went ahead and I did it, and I stuck through all of that. And that's what led me to where I'm at right now with LAPAC, and I was asked to, share a little bit about my personal life and my story of change and resiliency, and no matter the things that I went through in my life. Unfortunately, I didn't have any coping skills as a child, but as an adult is when I, really got the help and then had the right tools to make the better choices in my life, but I'm on here to share this because I don't want you to have to wait that long to get help. Help is here now. And if you know someone struggling or you're struggling yourself, you can check out our website, www.lapaac.org. There's plenty of resources on there, and for peer-to-peer support. There's many things you can do and get involved in. And I'm glad that I get to come on here and share some of this, and there's a lot of changes going on now, and I'm sure you're probably going through them too, especially with the pandemic, and all of the hurricanes that have come through, and then just the virtual learning. It's been really hard for everyone, and so there's definitely been a rise in supports and needing supports like this, especially, just having someone to talk to. And when you have someone that you can talk to that can relate to you, it makes it even better. Or someone that's already been through it, like me, the things that I've been through, and now I get to work with others, who may be going through what I have already been through, and I can offer that hope and that guidance and that security to know that things will get better, So yeah, thank you for letting me share, my story. And I hope that you can get some help if you need it, and that the things I said may have or may not related to you, but just know that, help is here and we are here to help you.
Thank you so much, Pascal. And we have actually gone over time. It's been an incredible conversation today. We have talked about what people don't like to talk about. So if you're on, like I said, if your school was not able to air this, you can send an email, louisianapaac@gmail.com. If you want us to reach out to your principal, your guidance counselor, if you see this and it has to be shared. I just want to thank everybody for listening. Resources on our website, email if you have questions for the presenters. I want to thank all of our presenters for laying themselves bare, sharing their story to give hope. And also to the governor, Congressman Graves, D1, Senator Barrow, all of you for taking the time and just to know about this new profession. If you're, studying and you want to go the route of psychology, psychiatry, guidance counselor, and you come along in your life and you have lived experience, being a peer is right alongside there as a career path, peer support specialist. And we also have information about how to become one on our website as well. So just thank you. This is the fastest growing profession in the country in the mental health world. So it's very exciting. It's very powerful. I have to give a big thank you to our campaign team. I'm gonna say, woo, campaign team who made this happen with LAPAC. Thank you. Thank you, the Office of Behavioral Health. This event, funded by a grant from SAMHSA. Thank you. We appreciate you joining the conversation today, and join us for part 2 tomorrow. And if you're in college, a couple days after that, we have part 1 and part 2. So thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.